Hello and welcome to another edition of ZDNet's DIY IT Discovery Series on 3D printing. Today what we're going to do is look at sizing a pre-existing object, and I'll tell you what the inspiration of that is. This thing I have become quite enamored with. It is a cord holder that just basically snaps on. Takes a second here. But basically snaps onto the cords. And I've made a few of these so far. I've made one for the Dremel, I've made one behind the MakerBot, and they've been really cool. And one of the things I wanted to do is size them appropriately for different kinds of wiring things that I need. And that's really what's really interesting about, even if you're not doing design work in 3D printing, you can customize the tools you use. And so, for example, if you were to buy something like this in the store, assuming you could buy something like this in the store, you might get one or two sizes, but you couldn't truly customize the size for what you want. And with 3D printing, you can scale it up, you can scale it down, and create whatever size you want. So we're going to talk about that today. And the inspiration for that is my new very slick $9 heat gun from Harbor Freight. And I need one of these to organize this. But I'm going to actually do a few of them. So let's take a moment and switch gears a second, go into the slicing program and make a number of different sizes of these neat little objects.
So we're going to get started with Harry D60's cable clip, which he enlarged and remastered from Magicsman. And I've downloaded this clip and I've already made a couple of them and really like them. So now what we're going to do is take it to the next stage and resize it all in the MakerBot desktop. And you can do this in whatever slicing program you're using. I happen to be using the MakerBot desktop, so it works pretty well. Now what I'm going to do is I brought one of these already in. I'm going to move it on the bed. So I'm going to move it over to the right. Let's see, let's take that pretty far over and then send it backwards. Let's just make that an easy 65 and then send that towards the back of the deck. Whoops, that's the front. That's the back there. All right, let's just try. There we go. So let's make it 25, 65 and just bring it to the back of the deck. And there's a reason for this. I'm going to take it a little further back. Let's make it 35, negative 65. So you can see I placed this here. And the reason for that is I'm going to add another file. I'm going to bring in the same cable clip organizer. I'm going to click on this one. But this time I'm going to use the scale function and uniformly scale it to 75%. So now all of a sudden we have a smaller one, and I'm going to move that also to 35, and let's take that and move it to probably roughly 50, negative 50 I think. Oops, so that puts it right inside. We don't really want it inside, so we want to separate it out a little bit, and we've got our second one. Do the same thing. I'm going to add a file, bring it in. This time I'm going to resize it to 50%. Oh, don't want to do that. Okay, so what I've done is, as you can see, is I selected the wrong one. So I'm going to take that guy back down to 75%. 75. Now I'm going to make sure I select the front one, which is the one I want to resize now, make that 50. And we'll move its location also to, let's make that one 25 and 35. The reason, by the way, whoops, 3500, that's way off the print bed. There we go. The reason I'm sending these things to the back of the print bed is I've got a relatively clean chunk of blue tape back there where the stuff in the front is kind of messy. In fact, I'm going to take each of these. You notice I'm selecting them together. It's just kind of cool. I've actually never done that before. But I am going to move them even back a little further. There we go. So I've selected them as a group. I'm going to add one more file just to make a really tiny version. So let's make that one. Now you notice this time I'm being careful which one I'm selecting. Let's bring that one down to 25%. And that's probably going to be too tiny for much of anything, but it's kind of cool to sort of see where it comes out. And we will move that one. Let's see. Let's just take a quick look at where we wound up putting these. So the Y is 51. So let's take that, move it to 51, move that to say 50. There we go. And so we have one that's big, tiny, and a couple that are just right. So they're all set. Let's preview them. We've got a raft on, supports off, because they're going up vertically. There you go. Take a quick look. This is obviously a very fast process. Or I said that maybe a little too soon, as it does a little bit. It's now doing its thinking. And we have all of these things here. You can sort of see them beginning to build. They'll build in concert going up. Now, interestingly, this will take about 5 hours to do because there's a relatively lot of material there. And we're talking about 0.061 pounds. And there it is from the top. And now we're going to send it to the printer. And we'll come back in about 5 hours. And there it goes, printing. The most time-consuming part of the so-called design process here has been really waiting for the printer to heat up and get itself started. But you don't have to have any 3D design skills to be able to customize a part to whatever size you want. Now, I pretty randomly chose 100%, 75%, 50%, and 25%. But you know, if it turns out that one of these is slightly too small or slightly too big, I know to just size it up a little bit or size it down and reprint it. And then I can have something that is the perfect size. So let's come back in 5 hours and 25 minutes and see what we got.
Okay, so we're done printing and I have 4 different sizes. Now I could tweak these sizes slightly as you noticed from the example. I just took it 100%, 75%, 50%, and 25%, but obviously that could have been 35%, it could have been 110%, that kind of thing. And you can make those tweaks based on what you want. So you could try one, print one out, you know, you're talking maybe 10 cents worth of plastic. Try it out and decide, okay, I wanted a different size. So let's take a look. This is the same thing that I've printed before. It's exactly the same. This is the 100% size. And it's nice on the heat gun. Going down a size to 75%, we've got this little guy, which really nicely holds my little USB cable. This is the 50% size, which holds my earphones. And then this teeny little guy holds this little PC cable and might be really great for routing a PC cable. Now, to be honest, this is a little excessive, but it really works. It's really cool. So let's take these 3 or 4 of these apart just so you can kind of see them individually. And you can also see kind of how messed up stuff gets once it's no longer organized properly. But Let's take these off. And let's take a look. So this is the original. This is the 50% size. This is the, I'm sorry, this is the original, this is the 75%, this is the 50%, and this little tiny fellow is the 25%. So because I am a fan of stacking things, when I wait for food in a restaurant, I have a tendency to do this. Here is our, the little guy doesn't want to stay put. There we go. There's our little stack of cord management tools. And that's it. Just think about the power that you couldn't do if you were trying to order something. You're able to essentially do a fully custom sized object without doing any fancy design work. That sort of stuff would normally be impossible, or you'd have to job it out to a service provider that would be very expensive. In this case, you know, you saw how long it took me to do it in real time. It's not very long, and there you go. So that's a quick DIY IT workshop example from our 3D printing discovery series here on ZDNet. And once again, let me give a shout out of thanks to the folks at MakerBot for providing the MakerBot. Have yourself a great time and build something cool. By the way, if you want to keep updates on this thing and you want to be able to see new videos, there's a little subscribe button down there in the corner. Go ahead and hit it. And then when I post a new video, you'll know about it and you'll be able to come in and see more examples. I've got a lot of stuff coming, including basics of design, some custom projects, and a lot more. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you printing.